Let's start with a really fundamental question. What's our relationship with the natural world, really? And maybe more importantly, what can we learn from the planet's oldest cultures before it's too late? In this explainer, we're going to go looking for an ancient wisdom that might just hold the key to our future. Okay, let's start with just one number, but it is a staggering one, 80%. That is the amount of Earth's remaining biodiversity that's found on lands managed by indigenous peoples. Now get this, they make up just 5% of the world's population. That is not a coincidence. It's the result of a completely different way of seeing the world. So this leads us to the big question, right? If this tiny fraction of humanity is so successful at safeguarding the vast majority of life on Earth, what do they know that the rest of us have somehow forgotten? And look, this isn't about romanticizing the past. It's about a desperate search for a future that actually works. To really understand their wisdom, we first have to figure out our own problem. You see, the ecological crisis we're all facing, climate change, mass extinction, it isn't just a technical problem. It's actually the end result of a deeply broken worldview, a crisis in how we see things. Modern science actually gives us this really clear dashboard for our planet's health, and believe me, the warning lights are flashing bright red. What you're looking at here are the 9 critical planetary boundaries. Think of them as the safe operating space for all of us. As you can see from all that red, we've already blown past 6 of them, pushing our planet's most important systems deep into the danger zone. And here's the scary part. This isn't some gradual slide that we can just easily reverse. No, scientists are warning that we are getting dangerously close to what they call irreversible tipping points. The best way to think about it is like tipping a canoe. You can wobble a little bit and be fine, but if you lean just a little too far, you trigger this rapid, unstoppable flip. We're talking about things like the melting of the Arctic permafrost or the total collapse of the Amazon rainforest. Things that once they really get going, we won't be able to stop. So, how on earth did we get here? How did we become a culture that would push its own life support system right to the very brink? Well, the answer lies in an illusion, one that was carefully built over centuries, the illusion that we are somehow separate from nature. Yeah, this feeling of separation wasn't an accident, it was literally an invention. It started way back in the 17th century when the philosopher René Descartes philosophically split our minds from the natural world, basically recasting nature as a lifeless machine for us to tinker with and control. Then came the mechanical clock, which replaced the natural, cyclical time of seasons and tides with the straight abstract line of factory time. And finally, in 1874, barbed wire physically sliced up the land, turning this fluid shared world into a rigid grid of private property and physically enforcing our separation from it. So this slide really shows the 2 different paths we're talking about. The dominant Western view sees nature as a pile of resources, just a collection of objects for us to use. In that story, humans are separate, and the main goal is just linear progress, always forward. But the indigenous view sees nature as a community of relatives. Humans are just one integrated part of that family, and the goal isn't progress, it's harmony. Okay, now this is where things get really fascinating. This indigenous worldview, it isn't just unique to one tribe or one continent. It is a global consensus. It's a kind of wisdom that popped up independently all over the world. There's actually a term for this, cultural convergent evolution. It's the idea that, just like the laws of physics mean that wings are the best solution for flight, and they evolved separately in birds and bats and insects, the basic reality of living on planet Earth means that certain philosophies are the best solution for long-term survival. These cultures, they didn't text each other. They all landed on the same deep truths because those truths are real. And you can see this beautiful pattern all across the globe. The Lakota in North America say Mitakuye Oyasin, which means we are all related. For the Maori of New Zealand, Wakapapa is a genealogy that connects everyone and everything to the earth and sky. The Yanomami people in the Amazon know the world as Urihi-a, a single living, breathing forest earth. And for the Inuit in the high Arctic, Sila is this amazing word that means weather, consciousness, and universal intelligence all woven into one. Now, for centuries, this profound, incredible wisdom was just dismissed as folklore, as myth. But here's the twist. Cutting-edge Western science with all its fancy technology is finally catching up, and it's proving that the ancestors were right all along. Just take 2 recent breakthroughs. The ecologist Suzanne Simard discovered that forests aren't just collections of competing trees, but these huge social networks. Trees actually talk to each other. They share food, they warn each other of danger, through what she calls a wood wide web of fungi. That's exactly what indigenous peoples have always described, a society of relatives. And then you have the bioacoustician Bernie Krause, who found that healthy ecosystems create this beautiful orchestra of sound, a biophony, where every species has its own little acoustic space. When the ecosystem gets damaged, the orchestra just falls silent. I mean, just look at this table. It shows just how perfectly the old knowledge and the new science line up. Indigenous wisdom said the forest is a society of relatives. Science now finds the wood wide web. Ancient ancestors used cool, controlled fires for renewal. Science now calls them prescribed burns to prevent megafires. The ancient law was simply take only what you need. Modern science calls this concept planetary boundaries. The proof is just undeniable. So, the big question is, what do we do with this? This isn't just some interesting philosophical idea. This ancient wisdom is inspiring a very real, very modern revolution in how we govern ourselves and relate to the world around us. It all starts with a huge shift in identity, and it's captured perfectly by this Maori proverb, I am the river, and the river is me. Now, that's not just poetry. To them, it's a statement of fact. To harm the river is to literally harm yourself. To heal the river is to heal yourself. There is simply no separation. And that belief has incredible real-world power. In 2017, New Zealand's entire legal system actually bent to this indigenous idea and granted the Wanganui River the full legal rights, duties, and responsibilities of a person. It can now be represented in court by guardians, one from the Maori people and one from the government. It's not property anymore, it is a legal being. And this isn't just some one-off case. It's actually part of a growing global rights of nature movement. Ecuador was the first country to put these rights right into its constitution way back in 2008. Bolivia passed a law of Mother Earth, and now courts and local governments from Colombia to India to even the United States are recognizing that rivers, lakes, and entire ecosystems have a right to exist and thrive, totally separate from their usefulness to us. Which really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. For about 300 years, the modern world has been running this massive experiment based on a single idea that we are separate from and superior to the natural world. Well, that experiment is now failing, catastrophically. The data's in. So what if our survival, our only real path forward, depends on giving up that illusion and finally, humbly, finding our way back home?